Well, if you wait 40 years, you might be able to see it in America, too.
Why's that?
2004 will be Godzilla's 50th birthday.
You think they're still going to be making Godzilla movies then?
Of course! Everybody loves Godzilla.
つまりこういうことですか。これからわざわざ敵の中を南極まで行ってゴジラを起こし、そして連れて帰ってきて怪獣たちと戦わせている間に我々は方法はまだわからないけれども、とにかく X 星人を全滅させる。それからもう一度南極へ行ってゴジラを閉じ込めると。
Yes.
Alright, you know the drill. Godzilla wasn't making money anymore, and he hadn't for some time actually. So Toho decided to retire the character. Again. By now, you would imagine the studio had catch a clue and realized the franchise wasn't worth the trouble, but no. They kept pushing these movies just for them to flop. Toho had been caught in this circle of hope and disillusionment for, what, 40 years now? And still they kept doing the same thing over and over again, expecting things to change. Just like myself with this channel. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't done so already, by the way. Of course, it seems that after 6 decades, they have finally learned their lesson, because it's been some good 4 years since the release of the most successful Godzilla movie ever, and there's still not a sign of a follow-up. Although Legendary is itself midway into the cycle and about to give up on the franchise, unless the next movie turns out to be a hit, of course. Pfft, yeah, fat chance. Anyway, 2004 was, incidentally, also the 50th anniversary of the franchise, so this grand finale was to be a celebration of this milestone. According to director Ryuhei Kitamura, Godzilla Final Wars, the entirety of the credits like that by the way, Godzilla Final Wars was kinda like a best-of album, combining the best bits of the series' history. In practice, this meant an endless parade of the most recognizable monsters of the franchise, or at least the most recognizable monsters from the Showa era, because that's the only portion of the franchise the director liked. And all of them go down in a matter of seconds, literally most of the time. I mean, Zilla, that's Zilla, yes, gets a lot of shit from people for only lasting 20 seconds against Goji, but that's only a little less than Hedorah, a much more respected monster less. And while the smog monster pops out of nowhere and gets instantly vaporized, Tuna Head at least had the decency of appearing before his battle against Godzilla, so he ironically does more than some of the other monsters in the flick. But what's the deal with all these monsters anyway? Well, they were placed on Earth by the Xiliens. Yes, those Xiliens, except this time they look like members of a J-rock band, going as far as to attract the love and admiration of multitudes of people, including actual J-rock stars.
そんなわけで始まった今日のハブさんファン、今日のゲストはですね、小橋健二改め X だけれども、これ X なんだよ小派遣。
今日からね X 星人っていうかX になれたんで、星を超えたコラボだよね。
OK 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 もうバッチリ伝わったよケンジ。お前夏の前バッチリ伝わった。ていうかさ、向いてるよ小派遣。向いてるでしょ。向いてる向いてる。
At first, they promised to get rid of all the creatures that had been pestering humankind for so long, and commence an age of peace and cooperation between worlds. But after being exposed trying to infiltrate Earth's government, they switched methods and commenced an all-out attack on the planet's surface, using an army of monsters under their command. So it's up for Captain Gordon of the Gotengo to put an end to the aliens' plans. Who is Captain Gordon, you ask?
Listen, kid. There are 2 things you don't know about the Earth. One is me, and the other is Godzilla.
That's right. Some would say this man put himself at Godzilla's level, but this is not true. He actually put Godzilla up to his level.
You know what we just went through? I'll undergo your court-martial or anything else you have. So just keep your mouth shut.
Douglas Gordon could easily destroy Godzilla by looking at him funny. In a matter of fact, the only reason this franchise has existed for this long is because this mustache-rocking, katana-wielding badass allowed it to do so.
女を殴んの
Yeah.
Gordon was there before there was even Godzilla, and will remain here long after the heat death of the universe. Which, by the way, is only happening because Gordon's very presence is the main force behind entropy. Don't ask me the reasoning behind that, that's just how it is.
Ozaki? Nice work.
何勘違いしてるんです大佐
So Gordon and some others released Godzilla from the cold prison where he was trapped years ago in Antarctica, so he can kick everyone's ass. And he does, with ease, as I stated before. He gets a little trouble when Monster X and Gigan enter the picture, but nothing that Mothra killing herself won't help. In a side note, I didn't include this Mothra's death in the previous video because I honestly didn't remember she was in Final Wars. Don't judge me, she gets the same treatment as all the other monsters in this flick. It's ironic, actually. Despite being hyped as a celebration of the franchise's 50 years, this movie has a bizarre lack of focus on the monsters proper. Most of the time is spent with the human cast as they figure out a way of battling the alien invaders. You know, as usual for the franchise actually. What makes this installment really egregious is the fact that while most of the other human plotlines were quirky at best, leaving the obscenely ridiculous moments for the monsters, this movie has some of the most bonkers and over-the-top action sequences ever performed on the big screen. I mean, the characters are super bland, except for Captain Gordon of course, and the villain who's just...
俺はこいつを倒す。
海岸起動
But the characters are always involved in these ridiculous set pieces that you will never imagine seeing in a Godzilla movie, which make for some of the most memorable moments of the flick, to be honest. A lot of people feel that this kind of action feels out of place for a movie of the franchise, and it may be true, but there is also the aggregating factor of said action feeling eerily familiar.
What is he doing?
He's beginning to believe.
自分がどんな存在か自分で決めることができる。俺たちは家畜じゃない。
Yeah, this movie ripped a lot from The Matrix, and a little from Star Wars, but that's unimportant. This is probably what most people meant by saying that the Millennium era borrowed too much from anime, this film especially. Although it's not just the obvious homage. There is Monster X floating in the air looking like Frieza, and the fact that none of the characters ever blink. It's actually a plot point that the aliens don't do it, but the human characters don't do it a lot either, so... What I'm trying to say is, this movie's erection was certainly not everyone's cup of tea, and to this day it remains a controversial installment in the franchise, probably due to the fact that it is still a relatively recent film, so people who watch it as kids still haven't developed an active voice in the fandom, as is the case with most entries of the series. But I like it, most of it anyway. The pacing is all over the place, and the ending is... Okay, really quick here. You may think I'm exaggerating or doing this for comedy's sake, but I'm not. Minilla has an innate capability of dragging down any movie he's in. Take this one for example. He first appears as the Xiliens unleash their army of monsters on Earth, but for some reason is not being controlled by the aliens. Then he spends the rest of the movie in a road trip with these two to get to Goji. Once they get there, he stops Godzilla from keeping on destroying the Earth after having dealt with the villains because he sees the little kid he's been hitchhiking with doing this. What? Like, what? Really? Why? Then he walks into the sunset with Godzilla to hopefully never be seen again. The end. Everything about this comes out of nowhere, including Minilla. When I first watched this ending a few years ago, I only felt disorientated. Now, with all the baggage I have on the franchise and Minilla, it feels infuriating. He may not be the cause of moments like this. He may not directly be responsible for the movies being bad, but the fact is that there is a direct correlation between his appearance and the start of the franchise downfall. And most of the flicks in which he is a main character are considered to be of inferior quality, so the character simply can't be disassociated with negative things. On a more positive note though, he's not as ugly in this movie as he was in the others. But I digress. Where was I anyway? But I like it. I like the bizarre silliness of this one, it's entertaining. There have been bizarre and goofy movies in the franchise before, but 9 times out of 10 they were pretty cheap and lazy films in general, so the bizarre moments came off as if the filmmakers couldn't care less. This one looks expensive, and it was. The most expensive Godzilla movie to date, actually. As a consequence, it looks to be trying too hard to look cool, just to come off as, well, this. And it's entertaining as hell. Of course, that saying otherwise would be sacrilege with the almighty Captain Gordon. Please don't destroy me, sir. Too bad the movie didn't pay itself up. Who would know, right? Godzilla Final Wars flopped hard and proved to Toho nobody was interested in Godzilla anymore. After that, the franchise would stay dormant for a whole decade until being resurrected at the other side of the Pacific by Legendary Pictures. The new American Godzilla success would prompt the Japanese studio to recognize a renovated interest in the series and move forward with a new flick that would try to return to the franchise roots. And what the hell is this?